Hey, welcome back to class. In today's class, we're going to learn a new strike. We're going to review the previous strikes from the previous lessons, and we're going to do some combinations as well as cover our figure eights. So let's go ahead and let's get started. First thing we're going to do is review our previous strikes. We're going to start with upward strikes. So I'm going to call it out, and I want you to go ahead and do it just before me so that you can practice remembering what it is without having to just see it and be like, oh, I can do that. So upward strike number one, go. Now if you did this, you'd be correct. All right, making sure that we have our chuck horizontal of the hand that's passing it. Each time we do it, and we're trying to catch it down in that black, making sure that we're striking right up that center line, and we're reaching out with our strikes as we're going. We're not keeping it in really close like this, we're reaching out. All right, go to upward strike number two now. Show me, what does that look like? If you guys just added that outside circle, you would be correct. Now make sure that that outside circle comes right up that center line as you're doing the strike. Okay, now go and do upward strike number three. If you did this, you would be correct. So we're bringing it right up that center line, straight up, and then catching it on that arm. Tip of the chuck is slightly higher than our hand, and then we're going to drop the tip down so it's flat with our hand and bring our elbow inwards so that we can grip again, point that shoulder forward, and strike straight up, just like this. Okay, now let's go and let's do our downward strikes. So downward strike number one, go ahead and demonstrate that. Did this, you're correct. Make sure we're striking down that center line as we're doing it. I want you to start pushing that shoulder forward to get maximum reach as we're going out on this. Okay, go to downward strike number two. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, it's easy, right? You just added the circle, no problem. You've got all these memorized. Doing great. Okay, so let's see sideways strike number one now. What does it look like? Does it look like this? If it doesn't look like this, well, what does it look like? This is our sideways strike number one, and we're doing that upward strike number three as our reset. Make sure that we are striking at that shoulder level. We're not starting from the hip and bringing it up and around. See, that's a really diagonal angle. I want to go sideways so that it can be a sideways strike. Remember, sometimes I will call this the lateral over under because it goes over one shoulder and then it comes out underneath the other shoulder. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to call out the strike, but it's going to be from any of those. So it could be an upward strike, a downward strike, or a sideways strike. And I want you to continue doing that strike until I call out the next strike. So let's go ahead and start with our sideways number one. And now let's go to our downward number two. And I'm going to give a slight pause after I say it before we go, at least at first, so that you have a chance to get it first. Upward number three. Downward number one. Still work on doing it with that good technique. Upward two. Now you can work on some speed here, and then sideways one. Down one. Up one. Down two. Up two. Side 1. Up 3. And time. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna cover our figure eights. So if you remember from when I was going over terminology, a figure eight is a circle that goes to the inside and then directly to the outside and repeats. So this is a figure eight. So I do an inside circle, which is this, and then one outside circle, which is this, and then going back and forth. Okay, now this one, what type of figure eight is this? Is it inward or is it outward? Go and figure that out. Hopefully you said it was outward. It's not inward. Remember, the top half of the circle moving away from us designates this as an outward. Now, I actually would call this a small outward figure eight, and it's small because the rotation point is at the end of the chuck that I'm holding. Now, I can make it slightly bigger by making the rotation point at my wrist. And now if you notice, when I do this, the two chucks stay relatively straight. Here, you can see that there's a bend in the chucks. The string is bent at every point as it's going around. The chucks aren't really straight. Here, it's kind of like a stick. So they're very similar. It's all completely straight as I'm doing this. I'm relaxing my grip a little bit and I'm rotating my wrist, bringing a little bit more from the side to side of my body instead of staying relatively in front. I go from one side to the other. And now I can make it even bigger, or even bigger than that. When I start to get here, I like to think about these as strikes. So I'm striking, striking, striking. Angle 1 strike, angle 2 strike. If you've done my collie course, where you're taking my collie course now, you'll know what this is. Right? And you can generate that power. But this is still a figure eight. It's just a really big one, drawing a giant figure eight as I'm doing this. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started practicing this. We're going to do an outward figure eight first. We're gonna start with our right hand and we're going to do a small one. So have the rotation at the end. Try not to flip the palm up, right? Try to almost keep the tip of the chuck relatively still. It has a little bit of variation side to side, maybe about a hand's length side to side that you'll be rotating it, but it's not a lot. As I'm doing this, my palm of the hand that's doing it is facing in and slightly downwards, but I'm not going up or down, so I'm not changing the direction that my palm is looking. I'm really only going a little bit of a side to side pressure, and that keeps my figure eight moving. Each time I'm doing this sort of a figure eight, you hear that sound of it passing itself. Keep this going. Now from here, I want you to go ahead and make the figure eight a little bit bigger. All right, so let's go ahead and relax our wrist some. The grip relaxes just a little bit as we flip it over. Now I am flipping palm up, palm down, palm up, palm down. And that again causes the chucks to look pretty straight, almost like a stick. Let's go ahead and make this motion even bigger. All right, so now we get some shoulder going in there. Now if you want to make it really big, start turning your hips. And if you'd like, you can add some power into these by really throwing and turning your hip. Notice how after I go here, I slow down the momentum and I raise it up. I go down and fast again, down and fast again, down and fast again. Also notice how far away I am. I'm keeping it from my body. I'm not going in really close. Right? I can risk hitting myself if I stay too close. So I'm letting the momentum kind of die back behind me, and then I raise it up and I let it die out here, especially on that angle 1. Right? That's when you're likely to really hit yourself with it as it comes back around. So just be aware of that. That's one of the reasons why I especially keep it out here, let that momentum die, bring it up. But even when I'm out here, I want to have it far enough away so it's not really able to hit me, and then I can come down. And that'll be the safer way to do this with more power. And let's bring it in a little bit smaller. Let's go to that middle range. And now let's go to a small figure eight. So I can do this nice and relaxed. I could go fast, but right now I don't really want to go fast. I'm just gonna allow it to flow kind of at its own pace with just a little bit of extra push to keep it going. So if I don't put anything in it, eventually it'll just die. Here, just a little bit. Get that motion down. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and go to the other hand. And we're gonna do that small figure eight again. Now when I do this, I also switch my legs. So I could do this standing squared. I'm more of a fan of standing more bladed off as we're doing this. And I want whatever side's holding it. So right now my left hand's holding it. I want that side out in front. So we're doing this small outward figure eight. Keep it going. Let's go ahead and let's make it a little bigger. Flip that wrist over now. Palm up, palm down. Palm up on the outside, palm down on the inside. Palm up on the outside, down on the inside. Let's make it a little bigger. If you'd like to strike with it, you're more than welcome to. If you just want to get this big motion going, that's fine too. You don't have to put that power into it. If you want to, you're more than welcome. And let's go back to a middle range, middle distance. So now flipping that wrist over each time. Palm up on the outside, palm down on the inside. And to the small. Have a little bit of movement side to side as I'm doing it, but I don't want this big motion side to side. Even though I'm still rotating at the tip of the chuck, I want a smaller motion side to side instead of here. And let's go middle sized and large size. Medium and small. Okay, so from here, we're going to do our inward figure eight, and we're gonna do basically the same thing. So starting off, inward, figure eight, small. Now when you're doing figure eights, everyone likes to put their thumb on that spine of the figure eight, especially on like outwards. Don't put your thumb on the spine. Just keep your thumb touching your index finger. And now let's go ahead and let's make it a little bit bigger. Now we're going palm up on that outside, palm down on the inside. But we're doing it with our inward figure eight. Nice and relaxed. Don't death grip it. If you death grip it, it makes it a lot harder. Okay, let's go bigger. Now you could also do these like a strike. I, on nunchucks, don't actually prefer to do these upward strikes very much. Right, maybe that outward one, not as much of a fan of that bigger one personally, but you can, right? Especially if you start to step off. Just be aware as you start to wrap it. That's when you'll end up hitting yourself on the backside as you wrap up and you come too close, so you'd have to keep it out, which to me is a little bit difficult. Not difficult, but a little awkward. But we can still just practice this as a good warm-up for the shoulders and a coordination drill. And now let's go to our medium size. You can speed it up if you'd like. And let's go to the small size. Go at the pace that you feel comfortable with. Also a really good forearm workout if you just sit here and blast these really fast, especially on the small ones, because it takes more control to hold it and keep that tip of the stick pretty still. You really feel those forearms burning after a while. And medium and large, hitting Bob behind me, medium, small. And now let's go ahead and let's pass it off to the other hand. Let's do the same thing. So small. Again, notice how I switched my feet. Got my left foot in front. No thumb on the spine of the chucks. Index and thumb touching. Get that small figure eight going. And let's make it a little bit bigger. Go to that medium sized. Relax that wrist. Keep the chuck straight as you're doing this. And let's go large. Nice big motions. You can really get a stretch in your shoulder if you want to. It doesn't have to go fast. If you want to throw a few powerful ones, you can. I usually recommend it on that backhand one. Up to you. Let's go back to our medium sized. And let's go to our small sized. And if something like this is happening, where you're just kind of hitting yourself, it's okay. You just need a little bit more variation in the tip of the chuck, right? But it's gonna happen especially a lot at first, and especially in your non-dominant hand, you're gonna just kind of hit yourself. Don't worry about it too much. Ideally, you're using these chucks, right? They're foam. They don't hurt. It's a little frustrating, but they don't hurt. Okay, take a breath. Now, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna learn our first variation strike. So you basically know all of the components of the first variation strike already. It's going to look like this. Okay, so our first variation strike is literally just a downward strike where I stop this right at my solar plexus level, like right in the middle of my chest. And then I go to a sideways number one strike, and the sideways number one strike resets with a third upward strike. And I do the same thing. So I go right down that center, right? So I want to point it, and then I go here. And now you'll notice I'm doing this, and then I make it so that the chuck swings towards that outside, which makes it loop for the sideways strike really easily. So I strike down, loop it slightly out. So you might have to go here, and then you'll do a little bit of a circle, just a small circle going towards the outside and then inside to help keep that momentum going for that sideways strike. Now, look where I'm stopping this. See how that's at my chest height? I don't want you to go here, where we're really dropping it down low and going. I'm going down through that head, no lower than my chest or the solar plexus, and then sideways strike. And this is variation strike number 1. Okay, we're gonna do 40 of these. So, start in our third basic position. Other hands up, on top, and 1. Catch, raise it up. 2, and raise up. 3, and up. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure that sideways portion is going completely sideways. Make sure the upward number 3 is going straight upwards. The first part is straight downwards. Was that 9? Right? I think it was 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25. 26. 27. 28. 29. 30. I got 10 more, 5 on each side. 31. 32. Keep it going. Straight down, sideways, up. 33. 34. 35. Here's 36. Almost there. 37. 38. Pick up the speed if you can. 39. 40. Okay, so that was our variation number 1. Again, very simple because it's pieces that we've already known. The only difference now is we did a downward strike, stopped it, and then went to our sideways strike. Okay, from here we're gonna work on some combinations. The first one is going to be our upward 2, and then our upward 1, and our variation 1. So what's that gonna look like? Actually, go ahead and practice that first. Try to figure it out before me. Upward 2, upward 1, variation 1. Okay, so it should look like upward 1, or upward 2, excuse me, upward 1, and then with this top hand, variation 1. Brings it back on top. Grab, upward 2, upward 1, variation 1. Remember we have that third afterwards for that reset. All right, let's go. So, up 2, up 1, variation 1. Up 2, make sure that circle is happening when you're pointing it right at the solar plexus, just like where we turn over our variation strike. Up 1, variation 1. 2, up 1, variation 1. And I know it gets a little bit confusing because everything's numbered. We'll practice skipping around in the numbers so that you really get them ingrained in your head. Up 2, up 1, variation 1. 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 2, 1, variation. Ooh, that was the wrong variation. Up 2, up 1, variation. Up 2, up 1, variation 1. 2, 1, variation. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's try to start picking up the speed. So I want you to push it a little bit. If you make a few more mistakes because you're pushing it, that's okay. But let's try to get that speed up a little bit. Ready? Begin. Up 2, up 1, variation 1. Up 2, up 2 again, I guess. Variation 1. Up 2, up 1, 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 variation 1. A few more. Up 2, up 1, variation 1. Last one. Up 2, up 1, variation 1. Okay, so we got one more combination that we're gonna do today. This one is going to be 2 grips, right? Just like when we're doing our gripping, 2 grips, and then upward strike number 1, and then 2 grips, upward strike number 1. So go ahead and see if you can figure out what that's like before I do it. 2 grips, upward strike 1. Okay, so it should look like this. 1 grip, 2 grip, and from here, I'm just gonna let go and grab it here. Now, from here, I'm gonna drop this top one, and I'm gonna go to grip 1, grip 2, let go of the bottom one, and upward strike number 1. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, up. So let's work on this for a second. 1 grip, 2 grip, up 1. 1 grip, 2 grip, and now I'm still doing this just like when I'm gripping, right? So I'm gonna drop this down and bring that up for the upward strike number 1. Still trying to catch this horizontally. 1 grip, 2 grip, up 1. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, up. 1, 2, up. Let's work on this, keep it going. Now this one, maybe you feel more comfortable with, and you want to go a little bit faster since we've worked on these techniques since day 1. Just haven't put them together in this way. So go as fast as you can without making a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to tell you to speed up here in a minute. Okay, let's start pushing the pace and let's go a little bit faster. So 2 grips, 1, 2, up. You don't have to go as fast as me, but I want you to try to go as fast as you can. Go to the point where you're starting to make a few mistakes. All right, so push it so that mistakes do happen. Obviously, I don't want them to constantly happen, but when you're applying that pressure to it, and that's how you're gonna get faster. Something like that might happen, right? I just threw my chucks. You probably already thrown your chucks already, but that's what should be happening. When we start applying that pressure to it, more mistakes are going to happen. It doesn't matter if you know how to do this. I can do this at a pretty fast pace, right? Relatively relaxed. And this isn't super slow, what I'm going now, but when I start really trying to speed it up, that's when more mistakes are gonna happen for me, but that's also what's going to help me get better. And I'm applying a lot more pressure, my muscles are being used a lot more, and I'm making more mistakes. And remember what I said about making mistakes though? When you make a mistake, you pick it up and you go again. And then you make another mistake, and then you pick it up and go again. So keep that going, apply that pressure. Do just a few more. I know if you've been applying it the whole time and you haven't dropped it, well, your muscles are probably getting pretty sore. And time, okay? So that's one thing that I want you to try to do at the end of the combinations. I'll try to tell you when to, but sometimes I forget. But I want you to apply the pressure to the point where you are starting to make mistakes, especially if you're already feeling confident with it, because you can make something easy hard by just going faster and harder, okay? Obviously, we have to get the technique down first. Get the technique, that's why we start off slow, build that confidence in it, and then apply that pressure. If you're not quite there yet, then go to the point where you are just barely making mistakes. That's gonna be your push it speed. And every time we do this, we have a little bit better and we get a little bit better and we have a higher threshold for our push it speed, right? I want you to be pushing it for some of these things. That's how we're going to improve our speed. Okay, so the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to grip for speed, right? You guys know now. This is the 4th class. We've done this a little bit. So I'm going to get my timer ready. Same thing as always. I'm not gonna count my first one or my third one. I'm only gonna count my second one. I'm gonna be relaxing, but I want you to try to beat that 40 or 50 or 60, right? Set that goal for yourself and try to beat it. On your mark, get set, go. Now at this point, I want you to push it a little bit, but I do want you to try not to make any mistakes, right? So push it as much as you can without the constant mistakes happening. We're really trying to get that consistency with catching. Sometimes for this, it's just being nice and relaxed and just knowing how to apply a little bit of pressure and then turn the pressure off immediately. Time. Okay, so that was our first one. Remember what you did? Hopefully you're already noticing improvement. I mean, you definitely should from your first class. If you did what I told you to and you commented what you got on the first class, go back and look at it at the end of this class and see if it improved. I bet it did, right? Bet it did. Just from 4 classes, I bet it improved. Okay, so I'm gonna count on this one. So I'm gonna try to beat 60. We'll see if I can do it or not. Ready, set, begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 9, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 60, 61, 62. Okay, I got 62 this time. What did you get? So I beat my time. Did you beat your time? We'll find out. All right, we got one more that we're gonna do. I'm not gonna count on this one. I still want you counting. You're trying to beat that 40 or the 50 or the 60. And I say 40, 50, and 60 because those are the 3 markers that you'll have to beat for testing. The first marker is 40. So that's your real goal. Get past that. Your next marker is 50. And the last marker you need to get for this is 60, which is why that is my goal. Okay, we got one more set. Ready? And begin. If you haven't beat your 40 yet this whole time, well, now's your chance. Get it, you got this. Keep it going, and time. Great job. All right, as before, go ahead, comment down below, tell me what you got. I wanna know what your highest one out of those 3 was. Okay, so I'm going to quickly review what we went over today. The first thing that we went over was our review. So we reviewed our upward strikes 1 through 3, our downward strikes 1 through 2, and then our first sideways strike. After that, we went over figure 8s. We did inward figure 8s and outward figure 8s, and we did them with this small, then we went to a medium, and then we went to a large. A few of these we applied power like we were striking with them. After that, we did that on both sides for the inwards and the outwards. And then we went to our variation strike number 1, which is this downward strike, and then it goes to our sideways strike number 1, and it resets with that third upward strike as we're doing this. After that, we went and we did 2 combinations. The first combination was an upward 2, followed by an upward 1, and then our variation 1. After that, we did our second combination, which was gripping. It was 2 grips and then an upward strike. 2 grips, upward strike number 1. And we started really trying to push the pace on that one. After that, we did our gripping for speed. So we did 3 sets of 30, aiming for our goal of over 40 grips. So hopefully you enjoyed today's class. If you did, do the whole thing, like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day.